little live stream here. I'm jumping on here to share with you some behind the scenes of the latest Kickstarter launch that I'm doing. In particular, I'm going to talk about the two emails, just two little emails that I sent yesterday that generated $3,293 in Kickstarter funding on day one of the latest Sync launch. So for those of you tuning in, watching the replay or watching this live, thanks for tuning in. My name is Tyler James. I am the host of Comics Launch. And at Comics Launch, what we do is we help writers, artists, comic creators, and publishers fund their dream projects. And we do it unlike all the other stuff that's out there, all of the other blog posts and YouTube videos and tips and strategies and other stuff like that. The one thing that makes us a little bit different is that we do it within the context of a step-by-step system, and we do it within the context of a community of comics launchers, of other creators that are also serious about this thing, also dedicated to learning how to do this right, also dedicated to making the Kickstarter platform a continually better and better and better place for creators like us. And it's one of the reasons why the success rate for comic creators on Kickstarter is so high. But what I want to talk about today is because I'm in the middle of a launch just had to take a little break from the launch and talk a little bit about this launch, because I'll tell you what, like, this is my 18th Kickstarter campaign that I've been a part of, that I planned and been running. This particular launch is with John Lees and Alex Cormick, the creators of Sync. And every single time I launch, even though I've got the systems in place, I'm always looking to learn some new things, try some new things, test some new things, and then also revalidate strategies that I have been teaching for years and years and years. And so one of the things that I talk about and I teach is the importance of your email launch list before you launch, and how that really is going to be one of the significant things that's going to determine the success or failure or wild success of your first or next launch. All right. And so just to give a little bit of context of this launch and of what I'm doing here and why I do this stuff, this was actually posted by Eric Erdick, a member inside our the Comics Launch Pro, the Comics Launch course private community, because I'm inside there, and every time I do a launch, there's always an opportunity to sort of talk about how I put the principles that I teach into practice for my own launches. And Eric said something like, he's like, well, because I was sharing some behind the scenes numbers and things and what I'm looking at and what I'm really shooting for with this launch and everything. And he said, this is great, not for us. He said it would suck if we paid for the course and put in the hours and the work and its methods, but they didn't actually work for him. But this is validation that they do work. And yeah, exactly. I'm not going to teach you stuff that I don't know. And I'm not going to teach you or tell you to do stuff that I don't actually do myself. Like, that wouldn't be honest. That wouldn't be in integrity, and it wouldn't work, because if you don't know something, you really can't teach it to others. All right. But this stuff does work. This was a screenshot from earlier this morning. Sync in our very first, on our very first day, raised, we smashed through our $12,000 funding goal. Over $13,000 were pledged in the first 24 hours, over 200 awesome backers making that happen. If you do want to check out the Sync campaign, you can go over to comicstribe.com/sync, see what we're doing over there. And I know the team would absolutely love to have your support there in any way that you can give it. But what was cool about this launch is actually we were the #1 top spot. We were the #1 project on Kickstarter yesterday in the comics and graphic novel category, in the comics overall category, actually. So we were #1 with a bullet. And the reason we were #1 with a bullet was because we got our fans out. We got them out. And, here's some, and this is the most important thing, right? Like, it's one thing to put something out there and then hope. It's another thing to put something out there for an audience that you've been building, that you've been cultivating, that you've been nurturing, and you know that they want it. And so, we've got some comments here from our fans, and you can check out on the Kickstarter page, you can see what they're saying. But these people were ready and willing to come out on day one, and that's what made it happen. But remember, it's your job to get them out on day one. And so what I want to talk about today right now is just the 3 biggest mistakes that creators are making with promoting their Kickstarter launches. All right, let's just knock them out. 1, 2, 3. And they're all related to one thing, and that is your email launch list. So the first mistake that creators are making with promoting their Kickstarter launches is they don't have an email list for their launch. That's a big mistake, right? And the second mistake is, okay, they had an email list maybe, but they haven't warmed that email list and got them ready to come out and back them, all right? The third thing is that they're not sending enough emails to their list during their launch, all right? So 3 things right there that are key mistakes, and they're all, what's the commonality? It has to do with that email list. Now, if you are a creator who does not have an email list or is not planning on putting together an email list, but you actually want to sell stuff, you want to launch projects, you want to get the support of backers, guess what? You need that email list, and there's no excuse here in 2019 not to start working towards that and not to have at least 100 people on an email list that you've been warming before your first or next launch. Now, if you need help doing with that, there is a workshop that I put together. It's been going strong. I think hundreds of creators have gone through this. It's over at comicslaunch.com/ready. It's an on-demand workshop, but that'll tell you how to do it. So it's not a matter of, there's no excuses here. You've just got to do it. I'll show you how if you want to get that. comicslaunch.com/ready. You can get that workshop when you're ready for it. But it's very important. So that's really going to address those first 2 things of, getting the people on your email list and then getting them, warming them up for it. But what I've actually, what I really want to talk to though, because, I've worked with a lot of creators. I've helped them understand the importance of that email list. And I've also got them to get that email list going and get in the habit of sending out regular emails to that list. All right. So those are 2 good things. But now here's something that even some of the creators inside of my community and some of the creators that I've trained on how to grow email lists and start email lists and get them out there. This is a mistake that some of them are still making. And this is that when they're in a launch, they're not sending enough emails to their list when they're in a launch. All right. Now, here's why this happens. All right. Here's why this happens. I'll get creators. Okay, they're bought in. I'm gonna start an email list and I'm gonna do it regularly. And then they say, okay, and my email list is gonna go out every Friday at 10 a.m. Sharp. It's gonna be the Friday funnies from Joe Blow, right? And then they do it. All right. Now. A lot of creators will never get to that point. And if you get to that point where you are sending out like clockwork on a regular basis, anticipated emails on a regular, frequent, consistent basis, you are in like the top 10% of creators out there, right? And so that's going to put you a cut above the rest. But here's the thing. Some creators get in that habit and they got that habit and they know their email list, their email newsletter goes out on, this time every single week. But then they launch their project, and you know what? They heard maybe Tuesdays is a good day to launch their projects. So they launch their projects on Tuesday, and then they hold back and don't email that list until their regular scheduled email. And this is just a big mistake, right? When you're in a launch, people expect you to bring another level of energy, to bring another level of promotion, and it's okay to send more emails when you're in the midst of a launch. Like this is you getting in the game, right? You hear more from certain people at certain times of the year than you do at other times of the year. And so it's okay for you when you're in a launch to send more emails. All right. And so, again, back to the power of the email list. All right. This is, we use custom codes inside of Kickstarter. So I set up a custom referral code just dedicated for my email list. That way I can track how many backers or pledges and how much funding comes from the email list. So you can see this was numbers that were just after day 1. We had $3,294 that came from my email list, and that was sending 2 emails. All right. Now, overall, that was, 24% of our total here, right? So if you're wondering where the rest came from, well, a good chunk of them also came, about 23% came from backer updates to previous Kickstarters. And this is that advantage that creators that launch on Kickstarter have, is that they can then push, then they also have previous Kickstarters that they can update. So that's where it came from. And then a lot of that it also came from Kickstarter itself, and from the fact that, but here's the thing, like this number right here of $3,294 coming from our email list, like that does not tell the whole story of the importance of the email list. And the reason for this is because we were able to drive 53 pledges and over $3,000, like within the first 12 hours or so from our email list. Because we were able to do that, that means our Kickstarter is going to get pushed up the Kickstarter page. We're like going to be one of the hot projects on Kickstarter. When people search to see what's getting funded right now, or what's hot or what's live, we're going to show up at the top of the rankings. And so that's going to help us get seen by people that aren't on our email list. So the value of that also helps drive this stuff that's coming from Kickstarter and elsewhere. So it's not just the direct correlation there. It's that it has a magnifier effect and a multiplier effect on Kickstarter when you bring your audience to the platform. And again, the best way to do that is from an email list that you've been warming up. All right. So, but here's the thing. In the past, like earlier campaigns, I would just send one email to my list on day one. But that's a problem too. And you might be like saying, okay, Tyler, well, I'll send an email to my list, even if it's not my usual email day. I'm telling you right now, send 2 emails. All right. Now you might be like, oh, 2 emails in one day. I'm going to get some unsubscribes. People are going to be mad. People are going to that's just too much. So I know that there's probably already some resistance coming to that, right? That idea. And so what I got to say to you is let me show you how I did that and how I approached sending the 2 emails. Because what I decided to do, and I've done this for like the last 2 or 3 campaigns, and it's very effective. But first, why send more than 1 email? Well, here's the reality. People get a ton of emails, and email open rates right now in 2019 are anywhere between 10 and 20%. So, if you have 100 people on your email list and only 20% of them even open it, that's only 20 people that could possibly take action on that email. All right. If you send a second email and you get a similar open rate, it's not going to be the same exact people that open that one or see that one. And so you'll get more people of your overall list by sending 2 than if you send 1. But I know it make people feel a little uncomfortable to send 2 emails on day 1. But this approach that I do has been very effective, and it's something that I don't feel bad about doing. All right. So let me tell you what this approach was. All right. So email number 1, which I sent out about 7:15 a.m. So just shortly after the Kickstarter was live, and I made sure that everything was working and everything. That's when that one sent out. That's when I sent email 1 to our list. And then I'm calling this email number 1 just the link email. And then email number 2, which I sent again at 3 p.m., I'm calling that the all the deets email. All right. And you'll see why in a second. All right. So what was in email number 1? All right. Email number 1 is just the link email. And really, it's just that. All right. I said, the subject line is very, very straightforward. Sync Blood and Rain Kickstarter is live and limited. And what I included here was, you'll see that I said, as promised, we're live with the Sync campaign. I said later today, we'll send a more detailed message with everything you need to know about the Sync Blood and Rain campaign. But because many pledges are limited, we know some of you just need that bloody link to the campaign. Click here to pre-order Sync. There's the link, nice and big, 1 image. This image is also clickable, and it's from your pals at Comics Tribe, right? So there you have it. Very, very simple email. Now, who is this email targeted to? Well, this email is targeted to the people on the list that do not need to be sold. They don't need to be sold. They just need to be told where to go to get the thing. And it turns out there are a lot of people in that bucket. There are people that have been like, hey, let us know as soon as this Kickstarter goes live. We want to be there. We want to get in there. Like, we want to make sure we don't miss it, right? There's some of these people were actually like already refreshing Kickstarter just to make sure they didn't miss it, because they want to be, get in there and get it right when it is. All right. And so that's the just the link email. But notice the way that you can feel good about sending 2 emails in one day is that you start out by saying in this email, another email's coming with all the details. But the reason for this one is simply because some people just need the link. and you wanted to make sure that they have access to those limited rewards. And one of our rewards was limited to just one, and it sold within like the first 25 minutes or 30 minutes or so. So there's a valid reason to send that email. All right. Now, what about email number two? Email number two, which went out at 3 p.m., right? This I call the all the deets email, right? Now, this email is the objective of this email is literally to sell the campaign. And so this email actually is a much longer email. You'll see it's got more images in it. It's got more details in it. In fact, I have a section in here that says, 11 things you should know about the Sync Blood and Rain campaign. And so I'm calling out in this email stuff. This email is essentially like a slightly shortened version, but not even that much shortened version of my Kickstarter page itself. All right. I'm making the full pitch for the Kickstarter in this email. And I'm not going to go through all of the details of what I say in this email, because you can actually get most of those if you go over to comicstribe.com/sync, because I'm just sort of giving the highlights version of this, of that. But one of the things that I do include in here is, hey, here's an update on how the campaign is doing so far. And the fact that this campaign was already, more than 3/4 funded definitely is going to help, because people see that and then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, let me get in on this. This thing is happening. This thing is rolling. All right. And so that's how we went and sent 2 emails, not one, on day 1, and felt really good about it. And as a result, drove about 1/4 of our funding. And that was actually pretty important in terms of our day 1 performance, because one of the things that I do in addition to driving our own traffic through our own email lists and organic social media postings, I do run Facebook ads. But Facebook lately has been taking forever to review and approve ads. In fact, it took over 24 hours for a couple of my ads to get approved. So I really didn't run many Facebook ads at all on day 1. And so almost all of our traffic to our Kickstarter page was organic traffic. Almost all of our traffic was traffic that we were driving ourselves to Kickstarter, and then people that were discovering our stuff on Kickstarter because the project was doing so good. All right. And so again, can't stress enough how powerful, how important that email list is. Russell Brunson, I was listening to his podcast, the Marketing Secrets podcast today, and he said something similar to, without a list, you might have a product, but you don't have a business, right? You don't have a business if you don't have your business. You need people to sell to, you need fans, you need people that know that your stuff exists, and you need an ability to get your stuff in front of those people in order to make it pop. And that's what an email launch list will give you. Again, if you don't have a list, I want to help you make it. I've helped a lot of creators get their email list going. And so comicslaunch.com/ready is where you can get access to that workshop and get rolling with that email list so that you can have a big day 1 for your next launch as well. But the big takeaway, especially for those of you that already have an email list, is that when you are in a launch, send more emails if what you want is more funding. All right. Hope that helps. Looking forward to learning more lessons, sharing more insights from behind the scenes of this latest Sync launch. Again, if you're a Sync backer or if you are interested in Sync and want me to tell you why it's a comic worth your time, just leave a comment and I'd be happy to chat about that with you. If you have any questions about anything I dropped today, leave them in the comments. I'll make sure I circle back and get them all answered if you're watching the replay. And get out there and start growing that launch list, because your next launch is probably closer than you think. All right, that's all I have for you today. Have an awesome rest of the day. I've got to go craft another email that we're going to send tomorrow, and I can't wait to see what you launch next.